Thank you, PJ. Yep. Whether I'm ready or not, it's time for another edition of the Pair and a Spare podcast. Burnsy, take it away.
We get the Justin Gaard flu game edition, who gets to fight through cold, and that means we're going to have a lot of me and Chip today. So, Chip, how are things for you? How was your bye week?
That's why we called it a pair and a spare, right? You need extra guys to step up.
Seriously.
When the radio play-by-play analyst voice goes the morning of a big game, this is we're in dire situation here. He's drinking his tea.
Well, Chip barely saw any games. I didn't
see any games. Yeah, I know.
So here we go.
I spent my
Jax Cafe. Thank you.
I spent my bye week in a Madison hospital.
All right, we're going to have to need more details before we start.
So
the messages come in saying, "Is Chip okay?" So, Chip, I don't know, you don't share everything, but
my son's fine. We got a call at 5:00 on Friday afternoon from my son that pain in his abdomen, and I've had my appendix removed 20 years ago, which I have a great story about that. But he was asking me what it was, and it was similar symptoms. So we double timed it to Madison and got there late at night, and he had surgery early next morning. He's doing good. Appendix is out. You don't need it anyways. So I didn't get to see really much football at all on Saturday. I did listen.
Be honest. You just wanted to go to Washington, Wisconsin. You couldn't miss that game.
Well, we did. After he got discharged, he's right there on campus. So we were fighting the tailgaters and the people walking across the street to get him back to his apartment so he could rest. But I did listen to the Iowa game in the car on the way home, so that was fun. I didn't get to see it, but I got to listen to it, and that was made the time pass by quickly. But yeah, my quick story, my appendectomy. This was 2005, and Greg Esslinger was our sports person of the year. Remember, Slinger won the Outland and the Remington that year, All-American. So he was the Star Tribune sports person of the year, and I was doing the story and was all set to write it. And I had a interview set up with Chad Greenway, who was at Iowa. And they had some good battles, and I knew those two had kind of communicated. So I'd set up this interview, and all of a sudden I had an emergency appendectomy at like 11 o'clock at night. And the interview with Greenway was the next morning. I totally forgot. Next morning, I'm in got the IV in here and all these things going. I'm in the hospital gown, laying in the bed, and Greenway calls my phone. And I knew it was a one-shot deal, right? And I wanted this. So I was like, I apologize if I come across a little goofy here, but I'm on narcotics. I'm in a hospital bed right now. But can I do this interview? So I wound up interviewing from the hospital bed there.
Oh my gosh.
We would still laugh about it after he got here and talk about it. Yeah. That was my introduction to Chad Greenway, doing the interview with him from a hospital bed.
See, this is the type of stories, Chip, where I just am like, how do you find yourself in these scenarios?
Well, Phil Hattie, Guards, Phil Hattie, the old one. I totally forgot. It was the last thing on my mind when I was, in pain going to the hospital, and I totally forgot I had this interview for the next morning. So I'm scrambling trying to get a piece of paper from the nurses so I can write down quotes. May have misquoted him. I don't know, but
yeah, I'm actually going to pull up that story on the archives here while we're talking, and I'm going to see what Greenway quotes you got and see if it actually sounds like the Chad Greenway we all know now, or if you just made things up. Yeah, I'm going to find this story.
But yeah, my son's good and everything's all right. So
unbelievable. All right. Well, yeah, this is good. This is going to be a great show. I can already feel it. So Burnsy, what game do we want to start with? Do we want to start with Iowa, Oregon, and then talk a little Oregon Gophers? Maybe we'll do it that way.
Yeah.
Because I said this the other day. This was Kevin Warren's dream, to have an 11 o'clock game with two good teams go down to the wire, and then funnel it right into CBS 2:30, having Iowa and Oregon also go right down to the wire in what looked like a dreadful game, a dreadful experience to be sitting in the rain at Kinnick Stadium. Dan Lanning refusing to wear any rain gear, just my sweatshirt, my hair, and my scowl That's all I've got, and that's all we're going to need. He's a braver man than I, but what do we think? What are our takeaways from this game? And yes, I did get the fourth member of the podcast heartbroken thoughts on the way that it finished at Kinnick.
Well, it was the disgusting type of game that Iowa needed in terms you had to get them in a locker because it's very tough to hold Oregon under 20 points, and they found a way. But when you have the uncharacteristic unforced errors in Kinnick where there's a long snap that goes 400 feet over the head of the punter who then just kicks it out the back of the end zone, and then you lose by 2 points, or even Caden Wheatgen fumbles it within the red zone there.
Huge fumble.
You can't have those type of unforced errors and then expect to pull an upset of a top 10 team. And Gronowski did everything that he possibly could in that fourth quarter, gets them the lead. But as you saw, Dante Moore he looks like the former 5-star that he came out as a few years back. I mean, he is a tremendous player, made a heck of a throw and great coverage to set them up for the field goal. But it's very difficult to be the top 10 team, no matter who you are, even Iowa. I mean, Oregon, to an extent, Iowa. But if you have that many critical unforced errors against the top 10 team, Chip, it's just, it's tough, man. It's tough to win games like that.
What's interesting to me is that Oregon can win multiple ways.
Oh, yeah.
And they obviously had their top receiver out, maybe top 2 receivers out, right, and lost another guy during the game. So they just run the ball. And if you look at it, they're one of the best running teams in college football. And so they can
261 rushing yards on Iowa in Kinnick.
Yeah. I mean, we think about them as this, passing, you got a great quarterback passing offense, a lot of skill at the receiver position, which they do, but they were beat up and injured there. So they can run the ball too. And that's 2 impressive wins, Now, maybe it doesn't look the same way going into Penn State and winning as it did at the time, but that one's, to win that way when they were not healthy at wide receiver and find a way. And when you have, one of those got to have it drives, right? And when Iowa scored, when Gronowski scored, was funny because we were in the car and it was that a third or fourth? That's fourth down, right?
Fourth and 3.
4th and 3. I was telling my wife, was like, Gronowski run. This is coming. It's clear as day.
Play call, to be honest.
Yeah, it's like Gronowski's going to run. I mean, you just know it's coming, and he scores. But I can't remember, was it a minute and something? I was like, they just left him too much time. I mean, this has felt like Oregon's going to do what they do and make some plays, and the quarterback was good, So give them credit for finding a way to win when they were injured at a key spot.
Yeah, it's just you don't often see teams go into Kinnick and put up 250 rushing yards, and that's where Oregon is one of the best rushing offenses in the country. They're top 3 in the entire country. They have more 20-plus yard runs than anybody else in the entire country. Like they went from last year, remember, they struggled to run the ball at times. I think about when that Jason Eck Idaho team, like they essentially shut them down in early September, and they've come a very long way. I mean, they can just beat you in so many different ways. And then, oh, by the way, they have the number 2 defense in all of college football. This is a team, now that they actually got out of Kinnick alive, which it took everything in their power to have that happen, certainly. I mean, they're likely going to be the 3rd team in this playoff, unless, a USC or a Washington, which, again, both teams are ranked, or at least they were. They'll have a shot, but this is an Oregon team that is very worthy to me of a college football playoff spot.
Yeah, I think they're I read this. I was looking at their their game notes today.
Mm-hmm.
They're one of 3 teams, Indiana and Texas Tech, who might
also
be 2
going to be in the playoff.
They're going to be in the playoff, and you can make an argument for either one of those teams. But that rank top 15 in total offense, scoring offense, total defense, scoring defense. So they're just good. They're good in a lot of areas, right? This is a well-rounded, really good team. And oh, by the way, they're hard to beat at home.
They're so physical.
Yeah.
Like you don't think about that.
Yep.
Like you think about Chip Kelly, flashy,
speed,
score 60 points. We're faster than everybody. Our helmets are chrome. Now it's like, no, they're gonna Like you could see these guys wearing leather helmets and not care, not flinch. They're just, I mean, to blow back Iowa and run the ball like that was to me incredible. And when you really had no threat of passing, because neither quarterback threw for that many yards. I think my Iowa friend reminded me today, because my thing is, like, as good as Gronowski is, you do have to be able to throw the ball a little bit at times, and he still misses too many throws. He wanted me to know that Gronowski had more passing yards than Dante Moore.
He did.
And so the point of that is, though, like, but Oregon didn't have much of a threat to run, and they took it to Iowa on the ground, which we've seen the Gophers do that a couple of times. Remember, Mo did that once. We did that down in Iowa City one time, but, like, you got to fit it. It doesn't happen very often. It's, like, surprising when it happens. They're just such a physical group.
I mean, that's where I don't know how it's going to end up. We'll see Friday night. I think Oregon's defensive line might be better than Ohio State's. Like, even the way that they were able to stop the run, because we're talking about an Iowa rushing attack that's very, very good, and Iowa offensive line that's very, very good. And Gronowski and their primary tailback, Amari Moulton, had 35 carries for something around like 120 yards. I mean, you slowed down those two to about 4 yards a carry in Kinnick, in an absolute meat grinder, in a slog of a game, in 40 degrees and spitting whatever that was for precipitation. I mean, again, that was going to be the recipe for Kirk Ferentz to try and out Iowa Oregon, and they weren't able to get it done. Why? Because the Oregon offensive line, the Oregon tailbacks, who are also a tremendous group of tailbacks, plus that defensive line. I'm telling you, they got some creatures on that defensive line for Oregon, and that's how you go into Kinnick, and you're able to hold on at the very end there.
And what's the stat? I think they had in their notes that they have the most 20-yard runs in college football.
Yep.
And given up the second fewest 20-yard runs in college football. So they get explosives and they don't give them up, and you don't do that without dominating the trenches, right? I mean, that's
like Big Ten West football right there.
Yeah, I know.
That's like what the three schools we talk about the most always want to do.
Guardsy, did you see Lanning's when he sat down in his chair? He's like, well, I guess that's why they call it Big Ten football, right?
Yeah.
And he's probably talking about the weather, but I think he was more talking about you've got to be able to run the ball in November.
Yeah. What were Gronowski's running numbers, Burnsy? You have that pulled up?
That's 12 carries for 25 yards.
That's your ball game, right?
Yeah.
That he never had one of those 40-yard runs or multiple first down, because we know he's going to make a couple of passes, which he did, but he's been such a threat. I think about the Penn State game where he had the big run late. Like, to be able to bottle him up and at least just keep him at bay while you figured out your own stuff, pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah, Oregon is just, even when you look forward to this weekend where the Gophers travel out, and we'll see. I'll ask you, Guardsy. I heard Kyle Potter on with you yesterday. How many of the three beat writers that'll travel, myself, Andy, and Randy, how many flights do you think we get canceled on the way out there?
That's a great question.
Again, we're going. I know myself and I think Randy are going into Eugene specifically. I think Andy's going
to Portland. Yeah.
Like,
so I'll say it this way. I've been told, Kyle told me that the flights that are being canceled are the ones where it's going to be the fewest amount of people that they have to rebook. And so if you have a full flight to a rare spot where they don't have a lot of flights every day, you have a better chance of going. I
would imagine the Salt Lake City to Eugene, Oregon on a Friday of an Oregon day is going to be pretty full.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I would think so.
Yeah. So now your Golden Gophers get to come off a bye where they watch the same Iowa-Oregon game. Oregon gets to return home on a short week, play Friday night on Fox. But we talked about even back when the Gophers played in this Friday night on Fox spot earlier, I had the stat where the home team in those games was just they had just been performing so well. I think that's still true. And I think that plays a part in why your Golden Gophers are 25.5-point road underdogs as a 6-3 team against an 8-1 team. Now, it's also within that the Gophers haven't shown up on the road at really any point this season. They've been outscored 110-20. And now they get to face a team that is a college football playoff team. So
yeah. I'm not saying that I don't think anybody's going to pick an upset, but You're coming off a bye against a team that just played an incredibly physical game on a short week.
Yeah, it's set up well for you to not get blown out.
Don't get blown out
every other time on the road. Like
exactly. Yeah.
You have the advantage. Even Dan Lanning talked about their schedule before the season. Like they have these kind of discrepancies all over the place. Like a team going back west on a Friday night after that bloodbath at Kinnick, like where they kept losing player. Like you should be the fresher team. You should be ready to go. Like you shouldn't have to ease yourself in.
That's it. You should be fresh. You know, I don't know what their injury situation is at wide receiver still. If some of those guys are coming back, I don't think their top wide receiver is, but they may get one of them back. But that was a physical game, and you have one less day to recover from it. You know, it is set up where, again, I'm not going to predict an upset, but
you're planting the seeds. You're planting the seeds in case something crazy happens.
No, I want to see a better performance on the road than what we've seen. Cal, they were just incredibly sloppy, right? They're in a different league at Ohio State. They were outclassed there, and they didn't show up at Iowa. So it's like there's been 3 different scenarios, I think, on the road, and they've gotten just 3 really poor performances. I want to see them play well on the road. So it's not just to change the narrative, because if they go out there and get wiped off the field again, it's going to be this team beat a bunch of bad teams and got blown out by everybody that was halfway decent.
We'll get to the bad team comment, because I think after this weekend, that's a statement that's continuing to bother me, especially the way Wisconsin and Penn State played against ranked opponents. But I think the thing for this weekend is your lines need to show up. Like, that's the thing to me, is your offensive and defensive lines have yet to get off the bus. They haven't even started the bus at any point. I think about that Iowa game specifically. Again, the defense gets three scores on them right away. The offensive line gets blown back. They can't run the ball. I'm sort of optimistic that Darius Taylor might make another return. Now, that right? It's been about 3 weeks. We'll see.
Do we think he had the same injury
as we've seen? We'll see how long he plays. We'll see what the injury situation is. But if the offensive and defensive lines for Minnesota just don't get off the bus again, by the time it's 10 p.m., we'll be tucking Chip into bed with some tea, because it'll be 24-0. Oregon's going to rush for 350 yards, and this thing will be over by about 11 p.m. local time. So, I mean, if they are going to pull the upset, okay, I'm going to tell you right now, the Gopher defense, which has not forced a takeaway in a month, which I knew it had been a couple of games, but then I went back and looked. They haven't forced a takeaway, number one, on the road this season, which it's been 3 games. Also, they haven't forced a takeaway, and that being an interception or a fumble recovery, in their last 3 games. I mean, we're talking the last takeaway in that aspect was Coy Parrich's pick 6 against Purdue. They've played 3 games since then. And if you're going to beat a top 10 team as a 25-point underdog, you got to be +2 in the take give, and you got to be able to hit some explosive plays on offense. So, and
that's your Ryan Burns recipe. Is that what we're going with?
And that's also going to be, by the way, I don't know if for those of you who are traveling out to Eugene as we speak, I hope you pack the rain gear.
Yeah.
Because it looks like it's going to be 47 degrees, light rain, mist, just like it was when Wisconsin kept it close. Now, I'll also tell you, I mean, we talk about what were part of the reasons why Wisconsin kept it close that night. Well, Rutgers was where Oregon was the week before. So not only did they have to go from Eugene to Piscataway, which I don't know what that flight was, but I'm assuming 5+ hours.
Yeah.
And then return home to play in what it seems like a very similar type of environment potentially this weekend. Like, if you just don't match their physicality, there's nothing I can tell you statistically that this game should be close. But if you do match their physicality and then you get a couple of takeaways, I mean, this thing could get very interesting very quick, Chip.
Yeah, and I watched when Oregon played, was it Wisconsin out there? And that was played in a monsoon. Yes. Obviously, they played in terrible weather Saturday. I think Oregon's just kind of, this is what they are. Like, They've had like 5 bad weather games in a row here. So,
do you think they have rain capabilities in their indoor facility? Like, do you think they have an irrigation system
It's
Because
like a flying
house that's just coming down.
yeah, like I know PJ would want that if he could get it, because these guys are maniacs. But wouldn't that be great? Like to have, because I'm sure they're practicing with wet balls this week, right? Like everybody does.
Yep.
I'm sure PJ's got his little spray bottle, spraying people in the face.
Yep.
Like I'm sure he's doing all that stuff. But I envision, because Dan Lanning's a maniac.
Yeah.
Like in a good way. Like you guys know how much I love that guy. PJ loves that guy. He says he's like the greatest guy of all time, which I'm so grateful for, because it was gonna ruin my like, you never want to meet your heroes,
your
right?
image.
And I've never met him, but when I asked PJ, I go, what kind of guy is Dan Lanning? And he goes, you'd love him. I'm like, yes. I do love him. I do love him. So I'm glad, but he's a complete psychopath. So much so that people were sending out pictures after the Penn State game like he was doing drugs on the field. Like, everybody calm down. Calm down, because of his facial expressions and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I wonder if they do practice in the rain. They probably just practice outside when it's raining. That's probably how they take.
When's it not raining there? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Can we talk about the Iowa side of this thing real quick? Because
let's do it.
Think about, like, they've obviously had some unbelievable seasons, right? And by the way, I got the story pulled up here, Chip, for Greg Esslinger.
Yeah.
You did a nice job kind of laying it out, like the coach, the teammate, the future, and then the opposition. Said that Chad Greenway and Greg Esslinger shared a quiet moment on the field after the victory. I just wanted to thank him for being such a great competitor. It was a positive experience for me to play against him. You can ask anybody in the Big Ten. They will tell you there's not a better representative for our league as far as talent and sportsmanship and playing the game the right way. That was the quote you got from Chad while you were drugged up in a hospital bed.
I was hooked up to IVs. That
sounds like Chad, by the way. So that's why Chad was such a, is still a great guy, right? Like for stuff like that. All right, the Iowa portion of it, because man, they've had some close calls this year. I mean, they're probably thinking about what the season could have been. Here's the fourth member of our podcast, Chad. It's a really long one. I'm going to try to get through it here. He says, as I mentioned late Saturday, disappointed things didn't go our way. Iowa's close, but obviously not quite there with the top teams in the Big Ten. The 93-yard touchdown drive in the fourth should have been the stuff of legends, but there was 111 seconds left. Too much time for a really good Oregon offense. I feel like we need music behind me here, especially with my voice. A top-tier team doesn't make mistakes, and they definitely don't make the same mistake twice. I can understand a high snap on a punt in conditions like that, miserably cold or rainy. I can't believe an Iowa team, normally so buttoned up on special teams, would do it again, that's all caps, again on the next punt snap. As the adage goes, you can't make those mistakes and expect to win. Oregon found a way to run the ball against Iowa's D while keeping Iowa's run game in check. That is often the recipe, unless you are Purdue, to beat Iowa. Oregon is a really good team. Iowa's good, not great. In the end, they lost by 2 points to a top 10 team. They're close, but not there. Oregon made the plays needed to escape a tough environment in lousy conditions with a win. The throw Moore made for 24 yards on the final drive couldn't have been covered any better, and it was a dime. This one stings. Like I said in our text exchange, Iowa has lost 3 games to 3 ranked teams by a total of 10 points. And they haven't beaten a ranked team in the last 11 tries. Now, fairness to them, they have to play Nebraska at the end of the season when it's already bottomed out. They don't get to play them when they're a soft 5-1 and get gifted a 25th ranking. So that's fairness to them. They've beaten Nebraska a lot, who are always ranked, in the much too early preseason poll, and usually by October if they've won more games than they've lost. But pretty good synopsis there from the fourth member of the pod.
Well, I was just enjoying as you were taking sips off that Newport in between trying to get that out. Yeah. Or even that game for Iowa this weekend where, like, if Iowa wants to continue to remain in this, and again, we'll see what continues to happen, even that Iowa USC game this weekend, which I don't know if you guys know what the line is. I believe that when it's out, I think it's out in LA. You want to guess what USC Iowa is? Who's favored?
Go ahead.
I would say USC by 6.
I was going to say like 4.5 USC.
Chip's right. It's about USC 6.5, 7.
Oh, that's too many. Sorry. That's too many.
We're going to see if USC wants to show up in the trenches, and we're going to see if Iowa wants to travel to the Western time zone. But, I mean, their physicality, again, that's the thing to me that has been traveling is, I mean, Iowa making unforced errors, to your buddy's point, is just like, even on special teams where it just continues to happen, where, like, again, I remember that Penn State game, Ferentz attempting like the 65-yarder.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, you're just asking for trouble there, and you got trouble with that being returned. But it's very uncharacteristic things at times for Iowa, which is going to be, I'm sure, for this season for Iowa fans, if they do go, 8-4, whatever it may be, kind of season of what ifs from that Oregon game of that's the one, if we just don't shoot ourselves in the foot, that could have propelled us to potentially a playoff.
Yeah, that's probably the hard thing. It's like when you're right there and it's a play, 3 plays could, make your season feel a lot different.
Yep.
But good teams are on the right side of those, and good teams, when the weather's terrible and they're not able to throw the ball because of, whether the weather or injuries, we're going to run for 260 yards against Iowa. That's what good teams, they figure it, whatever they need to do that day, they do. And that's what Oregon, they did. And, but I think I think our fourth member is right. Like, Iowa's a good team, but to get to that next level, you've got to play not perfect, but you got to make the winning plays, and they didn't. They opened the door with their mistakes, and so I still think they're a good team. I think they're well constructed, but the Ohio States, the Indianas, and the Oregons, I think, are just a notch different than everybody in this league.
Well, here's why it's tough, because it's not like this team is building to the next team because the quarterback's gone, right?
Yep.
Like, it's kind of the same thing. Like, wouldn't you love to rerun the clock with Max Brosmer a year ago? Bernsey, you've said it, and I think you've been right. That team left a lot on the table.
Yeah.
Partly not knowing really what they had in Max right out of the gate. And maybe some of that was Max was just figuring his way too, right? Because Gronowski kind of scuffled to start the season, right? They didn't really get him going. He had some moments, and obviously he had an injury in the offseason, but like, it's not like you just run it back with Gronowski next year. Like, and I know they just got a big commitment from a quarterback, a Utah quarterback, I think, and I know they've got some other guys that they like potentially, but you got to go back and you got to figure out the quarterback again for next season, regardless of what else is coming back. So I think that's the tough part when you have these 1-year QB all-in type things. Man, if you don't hit it, and they're going to have, they're going to finish with 8-9 wins. So it's not like they're having a bad season. They've had a really, really good season, and their quarterback has kind of changed everything for them. But that's where I think you probably do wander off into the what ifs more. I know I do with Brosmer. What if they allow him to throw more early? What if they allow him to throw against Iowa in the second half after he went up and down the field a couple of times? What if they actually started the game at Michigan before realizing Michigan wasn't that good? Like,
what if they'd have tackled North Carolina?
Would have been helpful too.
What if they would have got off the field against Penn State, where you're down at 1 point, you get the ball back, or you give Penn State the ball 6 minutes left, all 3 timeouts, and you never see the ball again, and
they run a fake punt on you?
Yeah, they convert 3 different 4th down conversions, and then the Rutgers implosion on the offensive line in the 4th quarter.
So there's now Iowa might not have as many as those.
That's a long list.
That's a longer list than I remember. But they've got to be thinking it right. Like,
yeah, for sure.
What if, especially with a guy who has proven that he is clutch? Like, even though everybody, including Chip and Amy Scoggins in their car on Interstate 94, driving aimlessly through the night, knew that Mark Gronowski was going to keep the ball on 4th and 3, and it didn't matter because that's how good he's been.
Well, and you talk about the quarterback. Talk about that offensive line.
Yeah.
I mean, how often do you get offensive line now they're always, they tend to replenish their but again, that's a really good offensive line. And you're right. I mean, these are if you get blown out, okay, you're just not good enough. But when you're right there and you what do you say, 3 losses by 10 points?
It's all ranked teams.
That's all ranked teams. I mean, those, and we said, man, if you win that game, you're in the college football playoff discussion for sure, and now you're just looking at trying to improve your bowl standing.
All right, should we pause and then come back and talk about the game that preceded this one, Indiana Penn State, which was a wild one. All right, let's talk about our friends at Jax Cafe, jaxcafe.com. We got a shout out. We got a wedding coming up at Jax Cafe for some Parent to Spare listeners. I think it's next Saturday, right?
I think so.
I feel like we should crash the wedding. I don't know what you guys think. Yeah, Burnsy, I'm sure you'll be on the 6 o'clock flight out of Eugene, so you're going to be back, right? Aren't you going to be back?
I'll be back. Yeah, I mean, FAA willing, I'll be back.
Yeah. So apparently John and Jessica are getting married on Saturday, and they are pair and a spare listeners, which is phenomenal, which is great. I don't know if that's the only reason they picked it. Probably shouldn't be, but hopefully maybe we made them aware of it. I don't know, but it shows you that you can have your rehearsal dinner there. You can have wedding receptions there. They've got room for everybody. If you just want to, have brunch the morning after your wedding, what a great opportunity that would be as well. If you are not interested in getting married, but just want a good date night, Jax Cafe is good for you there. If you don't want to even go on dates and just want to have a happy hour with your bros, Jax Cafe's got you covered there. Am I getting the point across in my raspy voice that Jax has something for everybody?
How special do you think that place is going to be for John and Jessica's reception? It's going to be first class.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you're going to have just the best time, a lot of room for all your guests. Imagine you pull up there and you see that parking lot, and you're having a reception. Everybody's there's going to be no circle in the parking lot. None of that nonsense, right?
You can't put that on the registry because that kind of thing can't be bought. Like that kind of experience.
Absolutely not. And then they're going to step inside. It's going to be a magical night for John and Jessica, and I'm glad they're having it there. And what better place? They picked the best spot to have their magical day there. So congrats.
I'm just imagining the father of the bride or the groom when he does his toast going, and how about that parking?
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? I would.
We know you would.
It matters.
All right.
This stuff matters.
Yeah, Mr. 100%. We're aware.
Anyway, so support those that support us. And I mean, we can't even talk enough about how much Jax Cafe has supported us and our audience and our listeners and you guys. Bill loves it when you come in there and say that you heard about him or heard about Jax on the Pair and a Spare. So make your reservations or learn more at jaxcafe.com. Where do we put that catch? Indiana.
One of the best of all time. One of the best of all time.
Great throw. The quarterback, I don't think even thought the receiver was going to go up and get it. He kind of like hesitated, like, oh, that's going out of bounds.
And he was getting crunched right in the middle.
Yeah. Crazy.
To get your foot down in that situation, considering, the magnitude of what Indiana's doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then to not only catch the ball, I don't know that he had another blade of grass to give with his foot. I mean, he had the last blade of grass to get his foot down. I mean, that's an all-timer. I mean, that's you're not going to see
a size 12 foot. If he was a 13, he's out of bounds.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But I mean, this is part of what I wanted to talk about with you, Chip, is we got to stop saying the bottom of the Big Ten is bad. Like that Penn State team is 0-6 in the Big Ten now, but they took Indiana to they took one of the best catches you'll see in college football to stave off Indiana. Or even we talk about Wisconsin, who had looked absolutely dreadful. And we haven't even talked about McIntosh coming out and saying, we're going to support Fickell and he's coming back. And then they go out and they beat a ranked Washington team. Like, you made the comment earlier, even today, and I agree with this, that Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana are in a tier of their own.
Mm-hmm.
But I just continue to believe 4 through 18, largely, it all depends where the game is played. And that's where, with this game being played in Happy Valley or even the Badgers pulling it off at home there, winning in the Big Ten for 70-80% of the games this season is like it's a coin flip.
I don't think there's layups in this league. There's not bad as in Northwestern State or whatever that team they played there. That's a bad team, right?
I'm gonna check on Northwestern State.
But what does Parcells says? You are what your record says, and you can't tell me that Wisconsin. Yeah, a team can rise up and play good on a specific day.
Sure.
But if you're ranked 128th in offense nationally and you don't have a win, I'm not going to say you're a good team. I mean, I'm not going to say there's 4 through 8 are good teams and then 3 elite teams. I mean, there's bad teams. There just are. I mean, if you don't win games, you're not a good team. You can
like,
be competitive in games. You can be competitive. You can rise up and have a moment, but good teams win more than they lose.
Yeah, the Penn State thing is fascinating. That's why Franklin's no longer there. I get it. But the amount of drafted guys that Penn State's going to have is I think I've seen somewhere between like 5 and 8, yet they can't win a game in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Now, I also think their interim coach has not been putting himself in the greatest of spots.
He's had them. I feel bad for him and the team because he's kept them together and he's had them ready to play.
Yes.
And then he just makes critical mistakes.
Yeah.
Judgment wise. Where like,
it's like Sunday to Friday, he gets them ready, and then on Saturday he gets in the heat of the moment and he makes every button he pushes, it just explodes.
It's the wrong one. Yeah.
Like Iowa, he fakes a punt for no reason. Like he uses the timeout for no reason last week. And again, who knows if that's the difference, but like little stuff like that matters. We just spent the first half hour talking about little things and the margins. I would say this, there's obviously bad teams, but I would say it's harder to beat the bad teams than it's ever been, if that makes sense. It's not easy to beat the bad teams like it used to be. There's not going to be a lot of, unless Minnesota goes to Iowa, 41-3 blowouts. Because I don't think Minnesota's a bad team, but they had a crap day. And they're a middle of the road, average to above average team, depending on the Saturday. Like it's harder to beat the bad teams than it's ever been, I think is fair to say.
Yes, because it's just the talent's so spread out.
That's it. Yeah.
And it's home. I mean, for whatever reason, with these 18 to 23-year-olds specifically, being at home matters. I mean, there's no team that personifies that more than your Golden Gophers, who are 6-0 at home and they're 0-3 on the road. Like the margin for error within the Big Ten is just, again, it's any given Saturday, who's at home, who's not. And that's where I even think about a team or a game this weekend, like Northwestern Michigan. I mean, Michigan's got to travel down, play at Wrigley Field. That'll be an interesting environment. I will also say, I don't understand for the life of me why the Gophers Northwestern game got 6-day flex like every other game did, because isn't historically here every Wrigley Field game at 11 a.m. under the lights?
I don't have the
I'd have to look, but I'm like
the history of Wrigley Field football behind my. I don't have that book, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Would it shock anyone at all if Northwestern either wins the game outright? I mean, Northwestern stuck with USC, and then there was the whole quarterback punter number thing that got like an explanation. I mean, it was like almost onside kick Michigan-esque afterward with how quickly everything was ramified.
Yeah,
how about their linemen having a pick, or they had a pick six turned into a touchback, Northwestern, and then USC scored on the next play, I think.
Yeah.
That's devastating. That's like Glenn Mason Gopher stuff. You know what I mean?
I've seen a few of those.
Where you can't believe that you just saw that. Like a pick six, you think everything's changing, and then nope, touchback, and then USC houses it the next play.
Yeah. Yeah, it's this league is showing is like if you don't show up, if you're flat or whatever, you're going to lose, and or it's going to be a more competitive game than it should be. And you may come out on top, but you're right. I think the right way to say is it's harder to beat the bad teams than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Transfer portal, whatever reason we want to say, just better recruiting, what have you. But to go back to that Indiana game, and I don't know if Mendoza is going to win the Heisman. I think he's going to be one of him.
Well, this is me asking you to give your Heisman vote right now, Chip, because I already know you turned in your ballot.
That's Mr. Early Bird. You'll be getting your ballot soon. There's always a Heisman moment, right? The Heisman winner always has a moment, and if he wins it, that play and that drive. I mean, the final catch was an all-timer, but there were like 3 catches on that driver. Like these guys just made ridiculous plays and ridiculous throws. Like that drive will, if they go into the playoffs and do something, even if it doesn't, like people will talk about that drive and certainly that catch forever. But that was, I did get to see some, I think I had people were tweeting it out. So when I was in the hospital, I was like seeing every play that was happening. I was like, this feels like a Heisman moment, for this quarterback.
Well, after Penn, it was either Penn State would heat him up and sack him for like a dramatic loss of 8 yards, or he'd throw an absolute dot in the heat of pressure.
Yeah.
And Indiana receivers do not drop balls, Burnsy. You always talk about contested catches and things of that nature. Like,
Yeah.
those
guys are awesome.
We don't talk enough about them, right? Because they are very, very good. And talk about Oregon going in and taking some punches and winning some games. Indiana's done the same thing, right? Iowa City, they had to battle that one to the end, make a play at the end of the game, and then obviously what happened Saturday. And what I liked about it, I'm curious what you guys think about this. I really wanted Penn State to win just because I like the underdog, even though Penn State's not. I think the cooler story was Penn State, finally getting something. But I like the fact that had Indiana lost that game, in the grand scheme of things, it wouldn't have hurt them. That they'd still be a playoff team, if they won the rest of their games. Like, that wasn't going to eliminate them from the playoffs. So I kind of watched it with there's pressure, of course. You want to win the game. They're playing for home field and number 1 overall seed potentially, and the Big Ten title game. Obviously, that would have been maybe up in the air if they lost that game. But I just like the fact that like they could have dropped that one, and no one would have said, "Oh, told you, Indiana's terrible." Like we've been saying for 2 years, they have enough equity now where they could be a 1-loss playoff team, and I like that with 12.
Well, that's what I like. Yeah, that's what I like about it, because as much as it created drama when it was certainly 2 teams or 4 teams, it always seems kind of counterproductive to be like a team loses in early October. Well, they're out, they're done. There's they can't recover from this. It's like, well, why? If they didn't play bad and they just lost in a good game, they shouldn't knock them out of being one of the best teams. And I'm all in on Indiana, man. I want them to go win the national title. I just think that coach is a cool dude. I like the way he approaches things. What was it? He got asked on the sideline. Was it Jenny Taft asked him about Indiana's never won here, and he's like, "This team hasn't played here." It's a great response, and like
it is a great response.
And then his other one is like, "There is no concern. Let's just go fly around and be aggressive and play." His mentality and approach is just like filtered throughout that program and what he's done there. I think they're just an incredible story. And so, but you're right. It's like, they're one of the best. They are one of the, even if they lost, they're one of the 12 best teams. I mean, they should be able to be in the play, they shouldn't knock them out of anything. So that's why I like the expanded playoffs.
Anything else about that game, Burnsy?
No, I think, or even, again, I think those 3 teams from the Big Ten are very worthy, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Indiana, Oregon, or Ohio State, make a deep run in the playoff and not win this thing. I think Indiana is absolutely worthy. You mentioned Heisman earlier. We haven't really talked about it yet, and I know, good for us, all 3 of us are Heisman voters, but it's an interesting year with just a few weeks left because, I think all 3 of us, I'll speak for myself, like there's always been kind of a non-traditional guy in terms of, say, Aiden Hutchinson a couple of years ago from Michigan. When you think about that national championship team, or even Travis Hunter last year, it feels like this year it's very quarterback heavy, whether you want to say Julian Sayin, Fernando Mendoza, Ty Simpson, Diego Pavia. There are some other guys like the Notre Dame back and among others. And it used to be the Miami defensive lineman before Miami's kind of fallen out of the discussion here, but curious where you guys are at here. Now, again, we're not saying who we're voting for and anything like that, but how do you kind of view this Heisman thing shaping up with just a few weeks to go?
Well, it has been,
Mr. President of the Minnesota chapter.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. For stretches there, it was a quarterback award. It became that, right? Because it was just all, quarterbacks. I think it's going to be similar to that this year because the quarterbacks on the best teams are playing at a really high level, right? And it's hard to overlook that. I love when there's a non-quarterback that does something, whether it's Hunter or Aiden Hutchinson or a defensive player does something. But I just think the quarterbacks are playing so good right now, and their stories are so good, their teams are so good. So I don't know if all the finalists in New York are going to be quarterbacks, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I feel like it's QB. I just feel it's because like what Chip said, you think about like Mendoza coming to Indiana, what that meant. Pavia going to Vanderbilt. Now he won't end up, because they've dropped a game. They've dropped some here. He's not going to end up in the same category probably, but 2-3 weeks ago we understood why he was, right? Because he was playing so well and they were winning and they were a national story and the whole deal. What's interesting is Sayan has gone from a guy that Ryan Day didn't let throw a pass against Texas to, and he even said, he goes, he probably could have done more, but we wanted to play it close to the vest or whatever. He goes from that to all of a sudden, shoot, he might be the favorite. Like if he keeps playing like this, but then how do you eliminate like his best wide receiver? Like Jeremiah Smith.
I know. Yeah.
And
like
Carnell
last year,
Pete's awesome too. He had another insane catch.
Like you guys remember, Tyler Warren was like my wild card last year.
Yeah.
I always like to do a wild card for third place. I mean, sue me, Google me. So I don't know. Maybe that'll be my wild card this year. I haven't thought too deeply about it, but other than that, I can't see getting past many quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, I love what Jeremiah Love is doing for Notre Dame, and we'll see what ends up happening with the Notre Dame discussion, or even like Arvell Reese for that Ohio State defense. Like the Ohio State defense has just been, again, they're the number one defense in college football, and as much as it is Julian Sayin, and he's throwing to 2 first-round receivers too. Like, I mean, Dante Moore, I'm sure, is going to be in this discussion with the way he continues to play. But it does feel like a very quarterback type of heavy one. Now, again, we'll see how this thing shakes out with a few weeks to go. But after a couple years of non-traditional guys, whereas you mentioned Tyler Warren, you got Travis Hunter, Aiden Hutchinson going back a couple of years more. It is very interesting to see how this thing's going to end up shaking out.
Well, and a lot could happen between now and the end of the season, even though we're towards the end of it. But the voting is going to be fascinating. It's going to be a close vote, I think, because I think there's going to be a lot of opinions on, most times we all can guess who it is, right? Or the top two. I'm not sure as we sit here today, you would find a consensus on the top two.
Which is why I like it. I think that's cool.
I'm also, and I hate that I even have to say this, but it's like, all right, I think as I'm pulling up the odds here, what they are, at least on FanDuel, and the top 3 are Julian Sayin, Fernando Mendoza, and Ty Simpson. That's 2 Big Ten and 1 SEC. I say this with the utmost peace and love to the South. Chip, are your folks going to actually vote for Big Ten guys over, say, Ty Simpson or, Marcel Reed at Texas A&M per se?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is like, we have a couple more games to let this thing play out, but in the South, Simpson's going to get a lot of votes. As he, and he's had a really good year.
Like, there's a lot of great choices.
That's what I'm saying. If you said who's your top 2 right now, you're going to get a lot of different opinion. Top 3, I think most people would say those guys would be your top 3, but there might be other people that say, Love or Sayin. I mean. Or the Texas A&M. Yeah. So, but Simpson's going to get a lot of votes in the South.
Yeah, this thing is going to be very interesting as we get a lot closer to Thanksgiving. I'll say that. I think it's going to be very fun. And I know that we don't have to make our ballots public, but I think the 3 of us talk about it on here. I think I at least tweeted out too.
Yeah, we did last year.
Yeah, it's like I feel like this is a great year to show your work. Like, why did you vote the way you do for such, again, it's a very prestigious award. And I know, again, all 3 of us are honored to do it. But, like, why you got to where you got to, I feel like the process is as important as ever in something like this.
I'm going to be like that top 25 voter and say I didn't put any thought into it and just winged it. Because that went over well for her.
That darts.
That ended really well for her. So in our final couple of minutes, Burns, you mentioned it. Chris McIntosh, the AD at Wisconsin, did basically a media tour. It was a very calculated media blitz. If you have a show or a podcast, if we were repairing a spare in Wisconsin, we'd be talking to Chris McIntosh right now.
How about that? Because
he basically got up and did the rounds, talked to everybody, ESPN Madison, ESPN Milwaukee, newspapers, The Athletic, all of it. On 3, Rivals, 247.
But you have to, considering the temperature over there, you had to do that.
But the main point he was making was, or announcement was, where Chris McIntosh is coming back, or I'm sorry, Luke Fickell is coming back for year 4. And the institution is committed to providing better resources to the football program to make sure that we get back to competing at championship level where we expect the Wisconsin Badger football program to be. General reaction to all of this, Burnsy?
It had to have been to me that behind the scenes, you couldn't find money to buy him out and also hire somebody who you thought was going to be better than the results that you were going to get with Fickell for next year. Now, that's a very arbitrary discussion point of who would have been better. Could they have gotten, say, Lance Leipold to come back? Could they have gotten Jason Eck? Could they have gotten Jake Dickert? Again, a couple of Wisconsin natives right there. But I just cannot imagine the amount of vitriol that was flowing in. And how vindicated do you think that he felt when Fickell's team actually stood up and they had a very, I'll say, Minnesota versus Purdue or Minnesota versus Michigan State type of performance where they got outrushed and outgained, but they had a couple of turnovers that they were able to do. I mean, you look up at the scoreboard and the win probability wasn't very good. Now, the Gophers have been the beneficiary of that a couple of times, but it is fascinating, Chip, to see they put out the call for money, and my assumption is that they couldn't find it. So, yeah, we're not going to pay the $20-something million buyout because we don't think we can get anything better if we're going to have to foot the buyout, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the buyout probably played a role in, or maybe was the driving factor. I was surprised if money wasn't a factor. Does this happen? Probably not, is my guess, because the temperature there is hot, and ready for a change. And
I would say it's the opposite. It's frozen cold.
It's frozen. Yeah, it's apathy now. Like fans aren't going. Yeah.
Yeah. But either way.
And how do you, because you guys know we've done this so long that so much of this is public perception and optics and selling and marketing. What do you sell to your fan base that with this regime that says, this is what we see that we think is going to get better, right? Now, the only thing I could say is they've had some terrible luck at quarterback with injuries in his time.
Correct.
There. Like just terrible luck. So you could say, okay, he hasn't been given enough time, and you got to have some patience. I agree with that. And Guardsy, I think you said recycling coaches is never really the answer. He's had terrible luck with his quarterbacks. Now, I think he made a fundamental flaw with the offense he chose coming in there with the air raid.
No doubt.
It was just a bad fit, right?
No doubt.
I think he would probably, if you gave him true serum, he'd probably say, I blew that, right? Like, I thought he was a home run hire when they did it. I don't think he's a bad coach. Now, maybe it's a bad fit, and maybe he made a bad mistake picking his offense, but and maybe that's what they're telling him too, is like, okay, let's let this play out a little bit more. The money, the buyout's way more than we can digest right now. We don't have that money. Let's give him, instead of spending $20 million, let's give him $1 million to go find a quarterback in the portal and see if that can help kind of turn this thing around.
What's going to be the fascinating part for Iowa and Wisconsin is going to be who do they get out of the portal to play quarterback for them next year? I don't think they want to turn it over. Now, I know Wisconsin finds a way to win a football game where the punter is the highest passing yardage man, which I don't know that I've seen that too many times in my lifetime, but that's how you win a football game as an 0-5 football team sometimes. And I know that they like the Carter Smith kid who came in and he was essentially just running for them, doing a lot of running back there. But like, I am very curious because he went during his rounds just talking about how we're going to put a lot of money into this football program.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's a lot of money? Is that $1 million?
What does that mean? Where?
Yes.
And from what? Is it from rev share, or is it we have to find more NIL deals? Is it hiring more support staff? Like, what does that mean? Because that is an arbitrary statement.
So is it going from, say, 12th in the Big Ten and how you're allocating your house settlement money to 6th? But even that's percentage points. I mean, because they're all very, very similar to one another. But did you find a donor willing to give an additional $3 to $5 million for NIL for you to go out and upgrade your offense? I don't know. But it's going to be a fascinating January because with the one portal and the one portal window where you got to hit the portal by, I think, mid-January to find a new home, we're going to see how they, again, if they get to swing above their boots a little bit, like, then you're going to see, they actually did at least in our opinions. Like, get some more money to go get some higher profile guys that they were battling. But if they kind of remain where they were and you kind of see who they get at quarterback, now again, Billy Edwards has been hurt the entire year, and I'm sure the only game he'll be back for is the Gopher game at the end of the season, because that's how this thing goes. But
you're such a Minnesotan.
I've seen it too many times. Again, I even think about who is the Iowa quarterback, like a few years back, who the starter gets hurt and then he just chucking bombs to Charlie Jones.
Alex
Padilla.
Yeah. How do you forget that game? Grim brings it up to you every time he sees you.
Yeah, in between his love for Derek Shelton, though.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, it is an interesting move by Wisconsin's athletic director, but I just come back to they must not have been able to find the money to feasibly do it. And I understand profit and loss, and I understand they got to run a budget, but like they must not have had the donor support to make the move. So if you don't, then yeah, you got to go all back in on Luke Fickell.
That is the interesting thing about Wisconsin, is because we all have the perception of Camp Randall and jump around in Rose Bowls and Ron Dane and Barry Alvarez, and it's just been this money factory for 30 years. They're not in Ohio State or Michigan in terms of how they spend it, right? And that's not a criticism. Like, so I hope nobody takes that as a – but that was part of the reason why Gary Anderson left, right? Or Brett Bielema wasn't – he – well, first of all, people were bored with him there a little bit, which to me is hilarious because he had taken you to 3 Rose Bowls, so calm down. But assistant salaries were not where they probably should have been, right, Burnsy? They definitely weren't under Barry. Gary Anderson, kind of the same thing. Like, wasn't getting the help from admissions that he wanted, wasn't getting the help from salary stuff that he wanted for the staff. So they're not one of these money's free, smoke them if you got them crazy schools where Gene Smith going, yeah, we went 30 million in the red because we wanted to be good at football. That's not happening at Wisconsin. So even that you mentioned the donors, like their biggest donor a couple of weeks ago basically said, I don't know why we would fire him. Like once that comment's out there, you don't have your big money guy, like you've got no chance, because they also they have some corporate support. They obviously have donors, but they don't have the Phil Knight either. Or a guy that's just feeding money constantly. So I'm sure part of it played into it. And honestly, I'm glad. You guys know how I feel about the whole situation. Like, I think the whole situation has been jacked up from the beginning. Of course, he made a mistake in how he wanted to run the offense, and he probably doesn't connect as well as, a guy who played there or one of them. But, I mean, I don't need to go through all the things that have bothered me about this thing, but I'm glad. I feel happy for the players that they've hung in and, like, actually got rewarded, especially the defense, who's shown up pretty much every week, right? If I'm a Badger fan, I'm looking for a thin reed of hope in this situation, is that, yeah, they've gotten blown out a couple of times, but it's not because the defense didn't show up. It's because the offense couldn't move the ball, and the dam burst a couple of times. Like, they've been ready to go. They were ready to go against Michigan. They were ready to go against Iowa, and then the dam bursts and it's over. So, I'm fascinated to see where it goes, because it's not a popular decision over there, as you can imagine. And he probably isn't making it for the right reason. But we'll see. We'll see what they mean when they say invest at a higher level, and then what does next year have to be for them then? Because that's the other thing. Do you think you're just going to pull up on a 10-2 in the new Big Ten? I don't know what their schedule looks like, but it's hard to. Are you going to be okay with a 6-6 or 7-5? Because that's going to be teams 6 through 16 probably next year. Is that going to be progress?
Well, that's the other thing. You looked at their schedule this year, and realistically, even if you had a good team, what was your record going to be when you played that schedule?
Right.
And then you add on top of it, you lose 2 quarterbacks. Now what's your schedule going to be? So, right. I mean, there was things that there were arguments for, and we know, like, when things go bad, the first reaction is fire everybody, right? Anytime the Vikings lose a game, they want to fire Kevin O'Connell, right? Like, that's the natural reaction. But when you sit there and think of it, and you start adding, okay, the buyout's humongous. We don't have, the donors that were willing to do that. The schedule stuff, the quarterback things. It makes sense if you sit back and you actually put down the reasons why you want to move forward with him. It makes sense. But it's also like when you look out there and see a half-empty stadium and fans are saying, where's this thing going? It's hard to ignore that too, because you need fans to come to your games to support it, So.
It's so bad that, their students are getting appendectomies after watching the game.
That's right. I know.
Like the hospital.
We're just going. I'd rather be in the hospital getting an appendectomy.
It's hard to distinguish stomach pains from watching football or my appendix burst. Like that's what these poor kids in Madison are having to go through right now.
That's a great
crazy.
Yep.
Anything else, fellas? How'd the voice hold up? You think I can
It's
call
good.
it?
You got better as it went on. I think when you
Minnesota
switched
Marquette.
from Newports to Camel Blues, things
Yeah.
kind of evened out for you on that end.
Yeah, I went unfiltered. Just to
I will
kind of
say
see what's going on.
I will leave with this important thing. I'm incredibly jealous of you guys. As you know, Oregon, Autzen Stadium's long been on my bucket list, and I was hoping I could do it, but not in the cards. So enjoy it. It's one of, college football's best spots, loudest spots. I'm just completely jealous that I don't get to be there and experience it.
Well, I mean, nothing's stopping you from having your wife put your credit card in the Delta app.
That's true.
I mean, nothing's it doesn't always have to be a freebie, Chipper.
That's right.
As Mace would say.
Pay to go to work. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you don't even have to go to work. Just come out. We'll get you a ticket. I can find a ticket for you. There's a lot of Gopher fans hopefully making the trip.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot there. And trust me when I say from this audience, and I know there's a lot of you, they could find a ticket for Mr. Scoggins there, Mr. 100%.
Find me a tailgate too. That'd be fun, huh?
Oh, we've got all that. I've also done some due diligence on a friend of mine has a friend who has essentially a yacht in Seattle that maybe we'll work on some sailgating possibilities next year when the Gophers go to Washington. So we're just putting that out there. So we'll see. Friend of a friend of the pod. So we'll be in good shape out there. All right. Well, yeah, I think I'm ready for Gophers Marquette tonight. I think I'm ready to go.
You did good, man. You made it.
I think I'll be ready. So, again, John and Jessica, have a great wedding. If you're listening to this, because you have nothing else going on this week, I hope you're spending time listening to your favorite college football podcast. Make your reservations at jaxcafe.com, and we will talk to you next week on the Parent and Spare podcast.